Welcome to the Back to Me podcast, where we help multicultural incoming freshman women and men manage their entire college experience throughout post-graduation to successfully transition into entrepreneurship and corporate workspaces as new hires.
Back to me. Oh, I turned it around. I'm back to me. I finally figured it out. I'm back to me. So when you think you have nothing, back to me. I go back to me. Yeah, I'm back to me.
Hello, everyone. It's your host, Yoli Tamu. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're launching our Campus Care Collective Series with William Middlebrooks, Deputy Athletic Director, Leadership Strategist, and Basketball Program Director at Lincoln University in Oakland, California. From college basketball player to high school coach at age 18, Coach Middlebrooks shares how mental health fuels athletic success and lifelong prosperity. He warns against desperation-driven sports decisions while coaching parents to prioritize personal value over financial prospects. Through programming designed with his wife, athletes build mental resilience, conflict resolution, organizational skills, and real-world grounding through jobs and community service. After leading teams to championships, he teaches true success balances on-court wins with off-court intentionality, which is where most athletes actually build their wealth. Enjoy. We love it when people say yes. We love it because we know educators and people that serve students are always so busy. And so we're grateful to have someone with us who actually discovered us from one of our interviews with Dr. Price from the Black College Expo. He is the Deputy Athletic Director, Basketball Program Director, and he's also the head men's basketball coach at Lincoln University in Oakland, California. Coach William Middlebrooks. How are you, sir?
Good. How you doing? Glad to be here.
Fantastic. Good. You feeling all right today?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Good day.
I've been looking forward to this. This is great. You know, we talk about mental health so much with young people, and to really dive in and talk about how it's affecting athletes, is a powerful conversation. And so I was very excited to speak to you and happy about our prep and some of the calls that we already had regarding this subject. So I love to just jump right in. You know, we always talk about motivations, and I'm just wondering for you, we also share a history in the music business that I learned.
Right.
We know like all the same people, kind of crazy. We never ran into each other. Oh my God. But if you could tell me what motivated you to just, choose and serve higher ed students, why that level?
Well, it was kind of organic. I mean, I look at life as I approach it. I'm a leaf in the wind, and wherever God blows me, that's what's happening. So my passion has always been creating access and opportunity for young people. And so that kind of organically moved me into the high school space, where actually before I was even coaching, I was running a booster club over at Pasadena High School. And then I was helping to fund some grassroots basketball programs that served at-risk youth. So it really kind of started there, ended up coaching high school, and then did grassroots basketball coaching. And then through that process, the next thing I knew, I was a college basketball coach. So that's it was just really super organic. And even when I got the college job, it's like I met the people on Tuesday, I got hired on Friday. So it was an interesting thing, but it's not like it was an intentional journey. So I just feel like God placed me here for the work that we need to do.
Yeah. And I mean, you have a lot of passion when you speak about your athletes, and we're going to get into that. But I'm wondering, why sports? Was it because, you had a child-like passion for sports, or you were just around young people?
It's funny. I mean, I played college basketball, right?
Okay.
And then I get in the music business, 20 plus years. I'm not in a gym really, except for 2 years. I played with an adult league. Somebody asked me to help them, where we won 2 championships there, which is funny. But didn't do that. My son decided he wanted to play basketball. He sprouted up to 6'9". So I end up sent him to Pasadena High School. And then Tim Tucker, who's the head coach there at the time, is like, hey, man, I looked you up. you're hiding, you need to coach. Because I was running the booster club there, and I'm trying to stay totally out of the way, right? And so I actually had a background because when I was in college, I simultaneously coached basketball at the local high school. So I'm an 18-year-old JV coach at a high school.
Wow.
Then got my record deal, ended up back in Detroit, and then ended up coaching there for a year because one of my old coaches asked me to come and help out with the high school program there. So I did that for a year. Then I kind of just wasn't in the gym anymore, and music absorbed my life. And so that whole deal. So, yeah, that's kind of the story. It's
So
not,
it's in the blood. It started with you.
yeah, yeah.
18,
No,
JV
I
coach.
love basketball. And basketball is what got me out of the hood. Essentially, I get to college because I play basketball, right? So it definitely was a tool that gave me a platform that then boosted me to other things.
Pretty cool. And so, like I said, this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we were having some powerful conversations. And what stood out to me in some of our conversation was that you were talking about the importance of building personal value with your athletes. And I wanted to take a deeper dive into that. How do you help those athletes build personal value? What does that look like?
So it starts with people understanding, and I may be jumping ahead in kind of what we talked about, but it starts with I run into a lot of parents and student athletes who look at sports, obviously in my space, basketball for the most part, but I'm also involved with football. I've had multiple guys play in the NFL, but they're looking at sports as the financial plan. So you have these initial conversations and you're like, okay, I get where you're coming from. Where we get into the challenge is that through that process, you start to find both the parents and the student defining themselves by this sports piece, which less than 1% are going to actually realize the dream, right?
Right.
So that's where I started getting really concerned because, social media sensationalizes the fights and the various things that are happening, all the way to some shootings and killings from parents and students on these basketball courts, on these Pop Warner football fields. But what I'm trying to get people to understand is these people are acting out of a desperation. And they're acting in many forms out of their own internal trauma that they've not addressed. And that's what you see happening on these courts and on these fields. So as a coach, as I started to understand that, we had to redefine how we're engaging with the athlete, but also understanding the interaction with the parent. We're not just coaching the student athlete, we're coaching the parent. And in some instances, we're coaching an entire family because these athletes will have pretty large support systems behind them. So now you've got to start engaging all these people because what they're saying to the athlete, what they're feeding into the athlete, but also what they're feeding into themselves sometimes is very dangerous. So that's kind of where this whole mental health thing for me started. Now, from there, my wife is getting a PhD in psych, got her master's in special education. And she's really the one that started helping to sculpt and design what we're going to do in relation to addressing this with student athletes. And so what that's come out to be for me is now we require every student athlete to have a job, a real job, a job where you have to go to work and start to understand the realities of that. One of the other things that we do, and we've always done that, but it wasn't as much from a mental health standpoint, but we've always made our players do community service. They've got to go out and talk to elementary schools, middle schools. Now that I'm in college, we're going to incorporate high school. But giving back and engaging with people in a service way, because we find that also helps the student athlete in their mental health. And then thirdly, we encourage them because we can't force them to do it. but we really want them to address, embrace, and attack their trauma. So that comes through sessions, whether it be with my wife and or outside therapists, but to really try to get them to understand you've got to deal with some of these things, because as I have individual conversations with my players, as well as in our team meetings, as well as when I meet their family, you know, we start to learn a lot about the kid. And my approach to coaching is, yes, it's a group, but every individual kid is their own being. So we need to deal with them in an individualized way. And then you start to learn, oh, okay, we need to deal with this, this, and this. And so that's kind of how it grew into this. And then that's kind of our setup. They got to work a job, got to do community service. And we're really encouraging them to address, embrace, and attack their trauma.
That's great. Well, shout out to Mrs. Middlebrooks for launching some of this.
In the process.
My goodness, getting a job. So we're talking about 9 to 5, part-time, having to be somewhere on time, the discipline of that.
Yes.
The communication skills you got to develop, all of that.
Yeah, because you got to think, and getting used to getting paid. Like in California, they get paid pretty well. Actually, work at McDonald's is $20 an hour more. But getting used to what does it look like to get paid this set of money. One of the biggest tricks out here, and I'm an advocate of NIL, right? Athletes being able to get paid and that whole thing. But what do you do when you're a kid that's gotten, forget my guys that are getting super high money. I'm talking about guys sitting a bench making $250,000 a year. You're not going pro. You graduate. Now you got to get in the workforce and you get offered 60,000, 70,000, 80,000. There's a psychological reality and reaction to that, right? So putting them in a situation where they have to work, I think really helps them. Because I myself, even though I was in college, scholarship, everything paid for, I had 3 jobs. And I know that it helped me be grounded and understand things from a much broader scale than being a person who everything's getting handed to me. Now I hit the real world and I have no idea how to react to that. So that's my thought in terms of that.
Mm-hmm. And then when you think about, their mentality, you and I talked about, there's not a lot of difference between a student athlete of today or even a professional athlete today and celebrities, just that mental shift that they all go through from, I guess, just making themselves feel greater than because of what they earn or the exposure that they have, as opposed to where are the real personal values. That's what stood out for me. And I see that in the jobs that you're saying they have to get. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you don't have core beliefs and core values in yourself, and now you start to get defined by, NIL or followers on social media, all these kids want clout. But I feel like a lot of the people on social media are using young people for what I call clickbait.
Right.
And then the same people that will tell you how wonderful you are get in trouble one time. One thing happens. They take that whole thing and flip it on you, right? So, yeah, it's just understanding our society, kind of where we are today, and creating an intentional mode of how we're addressing things, how we're attacking things. But yeah, building the values are incredibly important. And we also, in my program, 2 days a week, we have 1-hour meetings twice a week where we talk no basketball. So it's all job related, Google Calendar, LinkedIn. How do you use your LinkedIn? How do you properly use your social media? How do you build value? What have you done last week to contribute towards building your value? What adversity have you hit? And I try to force them to share it as a group, which we've gotten kids more and more comfortable with that. Because a lot of times there's certain kids who will be vocal and there are others that want to hold it in. But when the vocal kid talks, now that other kid's like, oh man, I had the same problem. I felt the same way. And now you start to get into this meaningful conversation.
Mm-hmm. That's great. You're introducing them to LinkedIn and all of that. Very important. Very important. So now you also mentioned community service. So they go out to see elementary students or all the students K through 12. Who do they see most often that you recommend, and what are they doing?
Most often they're at an elementary school that we adopted. And so whatever the school needs us to do each month, like last month, it was more about jobs and going to college and the importance of that. And sometimes it's as simple as the kids are just outside playing with the kids and engaging them. And it can be anything in between. We're developing a mentoring program at the school. So that's very intentional there. The second thing that we do is we like our guys to coach other young kids, right? So we work with 3 different youth basketball programs that hire our guys in, and they're actually coaching kids. So that's causing them to be mentors in a way, coach, how do you carry yourself? All of the things you used to get upset with, now you get to get that back from a younger kid who's looking at you as the old person and want to give you nightmares, right? So they get to experience all of that stuff. And then we are going to add this year, I'm even going to have where they've got to officiate games. They're going to become referees because they want to get mad at the refs, talk crazy sometimes to the refs. Okay, now let's let you ref a game and experience that same energy. And let's see how you react to it, how you feel about it, because now you're going to go home and you're going to have to process that. And hopefully that impacts the next time you're playing on the court and don't like a call. How do you respond to that? Right? Because we're also teaching through sports. You're really trying to teach kids how to deal with adversity because you're going to have some adverse situations and you can't lose your mind when things aren't going your way. You got to figure out, how do I conquer that challenge that I'm going through successfully? And sometimes I'm going to fail, and that's okay. What am I going to learn from that failure to apply next time? So these are all things that we're being really intentional about when we're thinking about the mental health of the student athlete.
That is such a great approach that you are putting them in leadership roles immediately so they learn those conflict resolution skills. Because that's it, what you just said. Adversity is going to hit them. And how are they handling it? How are they going to address it, especially in this world today? So good. So good. So now we talked about, student athletes just living through their sport. And you've already mentioned that family members can attach themselves to it as well, making their kids the financial plan. What are your conversations like with these families? Like they are not the financial plan. I'm gonna need you to rethink that.
Well, I always ask a parent, I said, well, let me ask you this question. If your son was a plumber, are you going to ask them to pay your rent? If your son is out driving Uber, are you trying to take his check? Right? So these are the kinds of conversations I'm having with parents because my belief is that it's you as the parent that's responsible to take care of and empower your child. It is not the reverse, right? And so I think some people have that twisted and they really believe my son, I'm going to get him, do all this. They're going to become an NBA player. They're going to make millions of dollars and they're going to take care of me. And that's going to be our life. And you can even see that if you really watch closely without me throwing out names, but watch the NBA closely. And you'll see that with players and their parents. And I think these are unhealthy relationships because that's not the way it's set up. Now, if your son wants to buy you a house, great. Want to buy you a car, great. You mom, your dad, whatever, that's all fine. But they don't owe you that, right? And so I'm always very concerned when people feel like they owe me. And that was really the motivating factor for me to quote unquote put you in AAU sports. I'm paying this fee to play on this team because I plan to get it back. So it was never really about empowering your kid. It was more, you can call it an investment. You looked at it as an investment vehicle or whatever the case may be. And I try to get parents to understand you have a better chance of putting your money, if that's your goal, take that same money and put it in an investment vehicle at 4% annually, and you're going to get a greater return, and it's going to happen because you have less than 1% chance of your kid panning out.
Wow. Ooh, if that's not a reality check.
No, absolutely.
That's a gut punch right there. Oh my goodness. You have more of a chance by putting your money in a savings account. Wow. Yeah. This is an important conversation. When does it happen? Does it happen during some of your sessions with the students, or do they have their own family workshop, parent workshop? When do these conversations happen?
I try to let it happen organically, definitely as we're recruiting a kid and deciding, do we even want them in the program? But from there, once you have a sense of it, it happens sporadically through the relationship, because I try to not make people feel like also I'm cornering them, and I'm trying to not overdo it because I'm trying to do it. I plant a seed, water a seed, fertilize the seed, let it grow, come back and add a little fertilizer, add a little water, and hopefully this constantly grows. And then we share information, because I'm also constantly saying, I'll send out texts to people. Hey, here's a great investment opportunity. Hey, here's this. Hey, here's that. But giving them, again, back to my whole passion about access and opportunity, I'm giving them access to opportunities that they can take advantage of that will help empower their lives on their own. So that's also part of what we try to do.
Mm-hmm. You're building the whole person. That's
Yes.
good. Good stuff. Well, this has been fantastic. I'm just also thinking about, so they have to balance. It's a balancing act. It sounds like you're teaching as well, time management skills, because you've got to go to school, you got to go to work, and hope you get to go to practice.
Yeah. And you got to use Google Calendar. Like, that's going to become your best friend. And my wife does a good job training them on Google Calendar, and they've got videos and all kind of stuff. And again, in those meetings we have twice a week, I'm at times checking their Google Calendar. I'll say, bring your phone up. Let me see your Google Calendar. I want to see, are you organized? Because the only way to get through this is that organization skill. And that's why we've had so many kids on the dean's list. I've had a valedictorian, salutatorian in high school. We've already got a valedictorian now in college. And a lot of that has come from just being organized, because these kids are brilliant, right? So a lot of times the kid who's struggling is simply an organizational issue. And if they had been equipped with those skills and taught those skills, then they would have been a lot better off. So we're definitely heavy on the organization piece.
Mm-hmm. Very powerful, powerful. And so I was going to ask you that, because you did send me an article about some championships that you had won. What was that article you said? Was it a few championships that you won, or one big one?
I've been blessed. I mean, like, I'm creating a graphic now because I tend to forget, because everything for me is a process. So I'm never caught up in the moment. But like, we've literally won a championship every year the last like 12 years or something.
Wow.
So at the college level, I've got back-to-back conference championships. So I'm 2 years in college, 2 championships. High school, just ton of championships. We got a 2018 national championship at the grassroots level. So I've been fortunate to be involved with championships, but that again comes from being involved with a lot of great people. I've got a lot of great partners that work with us, and it's a total team effort that's generating these championships. So I'm always careful to take credit. And also, I don't like to get too high or too low, because it's a process. So you'll win a championship today, and then the next year you're watching coaches get fired because they didn't win enough. I watched the North Carolina coach, like, he really went 18-0 at home this year, did very well in conference play. He loses in the first round, and they knew his best player was injured, and now he's fired. So that's why I tell coach, like, I try to not get too high or too low. I'm just constantly locked in on our process and getting 1% better every day. How do we improve our process? So like, the latest thing is we brought a guy in to talk to the kids about AI and how to use AI. And we did 2 sessions with that, and they're learning not just using AI for academic purposes, but okay, now you work a job. How can you develop something on AI that you can then introduce at your place of employment that's useful to help processes there, which now does what? Increases your value. So
Wow.
all of that ties in. So I'm very deliberate about finding these kinds of things and opportunities for kids. The only challenge with that is now then I got to learn it, right? And I'm 56,
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
But that gives them hope.
Yeah.
You're giving them hope beyond the sports
Yes.
that they're
Well, they have
capable.
to have it because it
Yes.
ends. No matter what, I don't care if you're LeBron, whoever, it ends. And if people do their research, LeBron has made more money off the court than on the court. Michael Jordan, more money off the court than on the court. And as you start to really research the players who accumulated long-term real wealth, you'll find that the majority or the lion's share of that money was actually not made playing. It was made through entrepreneurship. It was made through wise investments. It was made through keeping the right people around you and getting the wrong people away from you, right? Nick Saban always talks about knowing who to get on the bus and get off the bus. And we talk about that with players because, like I tell them, I have a thing where I send them, and many people haven't seen it, but Magic Johnson was actually paying family members to not be involved with his business. He'd say, I'll give you 60, 80,000 a year just for you to not be involved. I can't let you in my business.
Wow.
And so I got a video clip of that. So I'm looking at lots of little things to try to, really get the kids to understand. But I send it to parents too. Because I tell them, you want to manage your kid, what qualifies you to do that?
Yes.
Right? I was with a parent yesterday and I'm telling her what she needs to do. She's paying me to tell her what she needs to do. And then she wanted to tell me what her school told her. And I said, well, then how many pros do they have? Matter of fact, how many kids have they sent to college? And can you compare that to the number of kids I've sent? So why are you telling me what somebody else is saying? And more importantly, why are you even paying me if you're going to listen to some other advice, which, by the way, is bad advice? They're hustling you because they really want something out of your kid and you're not understanding that, right? So it's just this ongoing thing. We're just trying to educate people. But also, a lot of people think they know and they think they know better. And sometimes I've had to be a gentleman because I learned that God's a gentleman and exit the situation and just let you bump your head.
Yes, let it be.
Because I've had a lot of parents come back to me where they've gone broke, the kid's gone broke, and they come back humble pie and now they want to listen, right? So, because sometimes too, when you're on your ascent and everybody's telling you how wonderful you are and oh, we want you and oh, it's this and oh, it's that, they're forgetting, okay, well, if you're in SoCal, there's probably the same number of high schools in SoCal as there is colleges around the country. So you're not understanding this is a pyramid. So you're at the bottom. So of course you're wonderful because there's 550 plus thousand basketball players at the high school level. What you're forgetting is where that number is going to drop to less than 20,000 playing in college at all levels. I'm talking about that includes JUCO, little NCCAA. I didn't say NCAA. I said NCCAA, USCA, these entities that most people have never heard of. So, I try to get people to understand all of that. And so, sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not.
Powerful. Well, hey, you got the wins to prove it, the championships to prove it.
That's what I try to show people.
Okay. Fantastic. My goodness. Get on the bus, know who's getting on the bus and who needs to get off. That's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Good goodness gracious. Okay, so this has been amazing. I'm thinking of final words of encouragement. We always wrap up, but you have been laying it out. And I love your no nonsense reality check approach. Just bring it down front. But if there are some encouraging words for a listener or even a student athlete that is trying to build their own personal value, they don't have you. So what can they be doing right now?
The key is two thoughts I had was you've got to build value instead of just these passions that bring you misery. I'm not saying don't have passion, but you've got to be intentional about what value looks like. Now, what that looks like for every person is different. So it's hard for me to say unless I'm like actually sitting with a person, walking them through it. So I have to give them that overarching thought that whatever you do, build value. And I think the best way to start by doing that is create a vision board. They can Google that. You use ChatGPT or Claude, figure out what a vision board is and start there. I think that's the huge piece. The second thing and the last thing that I'll say is I always told this to people in the entertainment industry, and I tell it to people even now in basketball, that God gives talent, but stars are made. What people don't understand is just because you didn't get that scholarship, or I would tell artists, just because you're not getting this record deal, it really doesn't mean you're not talented. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with a lot of business, politics, and decisions that people who are in power are making those decisions. And that impacts you. So back to building your value. Do you want to transfer that power to other people? Or do you want to be like, the kid Lil Russell did a great job of building his value independently as an artist, passing on the initial deal that Jay-Z had given him originally. And several years later, Jay-Z had to come back and put a bigger deal on the table, which he inevitably took. Now, I don't know whether that's good or bad, but I'm saying the point is Lil Russell, as a person, built his value. He was intentional with what he was doing and built that. And I say the same thing to any person in any area of your life. Like, you don't want bosses or systems to dictate your future when God has given you the talent. But if you want to become a star in your lane, that has to be made. And you've got to be very intentional with how you do that.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. I'm speechless. Look, I don't know what to add. That was fantastic. Okay. So if they want to reach you or learn more about your program, where should we send them? LinkedIn or website? Where would you like to send them?
Yeah, everybody seems to like IG now. I'm all over the place. You can Google me, but my IG is William P. Middlebrooks with an S. Great place to start. And you'll find other things there to lead you to other places. I also have a website, williammiddlebrooks.com, so people can find out about me there. And yeah.
All right. Well, I wish you continued success, and we're closing out this school year, so you're prepping. You got your eyes on your next set of athletes for the next semester.
Yeah, we're in full recruitment mode, fundraising mode, and just trying to figure out, everything's about next steps, 1% better every day.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for giving us your time. And like I said, saying yes, we appreciate you. This is powerful.
Absolutely.
All right.
I'm glad to have been here.
All right. So you take care of yourself.
Okay.
All right. We'll talk soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us. So remember to invest in you first, the real asset that will drive your future success. For more information about other episodes, be sure to subscribe to the Back to Me podcast, College and Beyond. I'm your host, Yoli Tamu. Leave a review at the end of this podcast. And if you would like to learn more about other special events, join our community on our YouTube channel at the Back to Me podcast, or simply text Back to Me to 833-206-4565. Until next time, be well.